My name is Martins Rivers. I am 10 years old, and this is a story of how I saved my mother's life. For as long as I could remember, it had been just the two of us, me and Mom. Her name is Pearl Rivers. She worked hard, building her career, making sure I had everything I needed. Our house was warm, our dinners always filled with laughter, and she never let me feel the absence of my father, who had passed away when I was very little. I never knew him well, but I knew Mom carried him in her heart. Things changed when Richard Stones came into our lives. I was 8 when Mom met him at a charity fundraiser. She told me he was a gentleman, someone who made her laugh again after years of loneliness. At first, I was glad. I wanted her to be happy. Richard was tall, neatly dressed, and had a smile that looked like it belonged in magazines. He shook my hand firmly the first time we met and called me young man. For a while, I believed he truly cared. The wedding came quickly and our home changed with it. Richard moved in, filling our once simple house with expensive ornaments and leather chairs. Mom seemed dazzled by his taste. "He wants us to have the best," she'd say, her eyes shining. I smiled, but inside I wasn't sure. I noticed little things. Richard never liked when Mom spent too much time with me. He always found a reason to interrupt our board games or our movie nights. If Mom laughed too loudly with me, his face stiffened. And when guests came around, he spoke more about the wealth Mom had inherited from her parents than about her kindness or her accomplishments. At 10, I didn't have the right word for suspicion, but I felt it like a stone in my shoe. Something in Richard's eyes made me uneasy, as though he was looking at my mother not with love, but with calculation. One evening, Mom made her special chicken stew, the one with rosemary she grew in the small garden by the kitchen window. We all sat at the table, Mom, Richard, and me. Richard praised the food, but as soon as Mom went into the kitchen to bring dessert, he leaned close to me. His smile was sharp. "You're a lucky boy, Martins. Your mother is a woman worth a fortune." I froze. The way he said it didn't sound like a compliment. It sounded like a reminder. Later that night, I heard them arguing behind their bedroom door. Mom's voice was soft but firm, telling him she didn't want to talk about her family estate. His reply was muffled, but his tone was sharper, filled with impatience. I curled under my blanket, wishing things would return the way they used to be, just me and Mom, safe and happy. The days passed, and Richard's charm in public never faded. Neighbors thought he was wonderful, polite, and devoted. But behind closed doors, I saw glimpses of something else. He would stare at Mom's jewelry box longer than he should. He would ask about her will in ways that made me frown. He even once suggested she put everything in both their names to secure the future. Mom brushed it off, believing his words were out of care. But I saw his jaw tighten when she refused. I saw the way his eyes grew cold when she chose to buy me new books instead of agreeing to his extravagant ideas. Still, I loved her smile when she looked at him. She was happy, or maybe she wanted to believe she was. And because I loved her more than anything in the world, I stayed quiet, hiding my worries deep inside. Then came the evening that sealed everything in my memory. It was late spring, the sun stretching long shadows across our neighborhood. I had just returned from playing soccer at the park when I saw Richard in the study. The door was slightly ajar, and he was on the phone. His voice was low, but his words pricked through the gap like needles. "She won't agree." "Yes, I know. Once she's gone, it all becomes mine. No one will suspect a thing." My stomach turned cold. "Gone," he said, "once she's gone. My mother." I backed away, heart hammering in my chest, the soccer ball slipping from my fingers. I didn't know what to do. At 10 years old, I had never faced something so terrifying. I ran to my room, buried my face in my pillow, and fought back tears. That night, when Mom came to tuck me in, I wanted to tell her. The words crowded my throat, but Richard walked by the door just then, his shadow stretching across the hall. I froze, and instead I whispered, "Don't go anywhere tomorrow, Mom. Please." She smiled, brushing my hair with her hand. "Why, darling?" I just want you close," I said. She laughed softly, kissed my forehead, and turned off the light, but I couldn't sleep. My mind replayed Richard's words again and again, and the warmth of our once happy home felt like it was slipping away, replaced by something darker. I knew then that my life was about to change. The home that once held only love was now filled with secrets. And though I was just a boy, I would have to find the courage to protect the person I loved most in this world. Because Richard Stones wasn't here to build a family. He was here to take everything. And I wasn't going to let that happen. The next morning, sunlight streamed into my room, but it didn't bring comfort. My stomach felt heavy, like I had swallowed a stone. I couldn't forget Richard's words from a night before, words that seemed too evil to be real. I wonder if maybe I had imagined them, if maybe I had misunderstood. But deep down, I knew I hadn't. His tone, the pause before "when she's gone," it was too sharp to be anything else. I sat quietly at the breakfast table, barely touching my cereal. Mom noticed. "Martin, sweetheart, are you okay? You look pale." I opened my mouth, ready to tell her. But then Richard entered the kitchen, freshly shaved, soup pressed, smiling like nothing in the world could ever go wrong. His hand rested on her shoulder, too firm, too controlling. I swallowed my words. "Big day ahead," he announced, pouring himself coffee. "Pearl, I think tonight we should go over some documents together. Important things. Martins, you'll be in bed by then, won't you?" He winked at me. My spoon clattered against the bowl. That evening, I stayed close to Mom, following her from room to room, pretending I needed homework help or wanted to play a game. She laughed and indulged me, not realizing I was guarding her. Richard grew impatient. "The boy's clinging too much," he muttered once, his jaw tightening. I didn't care. Something in me screamed that if I let her out of my sight, she might never come back. Then it happened. The moment that carved the truth into stone. I had gone downstairs to get a glass of water late at night. Passing by the study, I froze. Richard was on the phone again, voice low but sharp, every word cutting into my chest. "It's simple," he said. "She trusts me. I'll put the pills in her tea tomorrow night. She won't wake up, and no one will suspect. Once it's over, the assets are mine." My hand shook so badly that the glass nearly slipped. Pills. Tomorrow night. He wasn't just talking about it. He had a plan. My heart raced as if it would break through my ribs. I backed away 1 step, 2 steps, careful not to let the floor creak. I ran upstairs, my breath shallow, and shut my door as quietly as I could. My chest ached. My skin prickled. My world spun. He wanted to kill her. My mother. I sat on the edge of my bed, trying to think. I was only 10 years old, too small to fight him, too young for anyone to take seriously. If I went to the police alone, would they even believe me? What if Richard found out I knew? What if he hurt me too? Sleep didn't come. Instead, I listened for every sound in the house. The creak of a stair, the murmur of voices. When the silence finally stretched deep into the night, I tiptoed to Mom's room. She was asleep, her chest rising and falling peacefully. I wanted to shake her awake, to tell her everything, but fear pinned me down. Richard's face flashed in my mind, his cold voice repeating, "Once she's gone?" The next day, I watched him closely. At breakfast, his eyes flicked toward Mom's teacup longer than they should have. My stomach twisted. Was this the moment? My heart pounded so loudly that I thought they would hear it. But he didn't act, not yet. He was waiting. I couldn't. I wouldn't. That afternoon, while Mom was folding laundry, I grabbed her hand. "Mom," I whispered urgently, "please, don't drink tea tonight. Promise me." She looked at me, puzzled. "Martins, what are you talking about?" I bit my lip, desperate but afraid. Richard's footsteps echoed down the hall, and I panicked. Without thinking, I pressed my hand gently over her mouth and whispered, "Don't talk. Please. He wants to hurt you." Her eyes widened, shocked, but I begged her with my own. "Please believe me, Mom. Please." She pulled my hand away, whispering back, "Martins, you must have had a bad dream." "No." My voice cracked, tears rising. I heard him. He said he'll put pills in your tea. He wants your money, Mom. Please don't let him know I told you. Her face drained of color. For a long moment, she didn't speak. Then Richard's voice called from the living room. "Pearl, where are you?" She quickly pressed a finger to her lips, signaling me to stay quiet. Then she kissed the top of my head, whispering, "We'll talk later, sweetheart." But I could see it now, the flicker of doubt in her eyes. She didn't fully believe me yet, but something had reached her. The rest of the evening dragged like a shadow. Richard was charming, smiling, acting. The house felt different after that night. Every wall seemed thinner, every shadow longer, every sound sharper. I moved through it like a soldier on a battlefield, alert, braced for danger. My mother, Pearl Rivers, wore a calm face in daylight, but I could see the strain behind her smile. She laughed at Richard's jokes, sat beside him on the couch, but I noticed her fingers tightening around her coffee cup, her glance flickering toward me when she thought he wasn't looking. I knew she believed me, at least enough to be cautious, but she was trapped between fear and disbelief, caught in a storm she didn't want to admit was real. She still wanted to believe in her marriage, in the man she thought she had loved. That's the way my mother was, always hoping for the best in people, even when the truth was darker than she imagined. One evening, I found her alone in the garden, clipping roses. I rushed to her side, whispering, "Mom, you have to be careful. He's planning something." "I know it." She looked down at me, her eyes soft but trembling. "Martin's, sweetheart, I don't know what to do. If you're right." Her voice trailed off, the thought too heavy to finish. I gripped her arm, desperate. "Don't talk to him about it. Don't let him know you know. Promise me." Her lips parted. But before she could answer, Richard's voice drifted out the kitchen window. "Pearl, where are you?" My heart leapt. Without thinking, I pressed my small hand over her mouth again, whispering, "Don't talk." She froze, eyes wide, and I shook my head. My pulse hammered against my skin, fear spreading like fire. Richard stepped into the garden, smiling as though nothing in the world was wrong. "Ah, here you are. Thought I lost my rose among the roses." He reached for her hand, but his gaze swept over me, lingering longer than usual. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Mom gently set the clippers down, forcing a laugh. "Just showing Martins how to trim the flowers properly." Richard nodded, his grip tightening around her hand. "Good. He should learn." Then he turned to me. "Run along now, champ. Let your mother breathe." I didn't want to go, but I obeyed, retreating toward the house. My steps were slow, my ears straining for every word that followed. Richard's voice dropped lower, too soft for me to catch, but I caught my mother's faint reply. My gut twisted. She was still pretending everything was normal, playing a dangerous game to keep him from suspecting what I had told her. That night, I couldn't eat. Richard had made tea again, his smile unshakable. He slid the cup toward Mom with a casual hand. But I noticed a faint tremor in his fingers, the way his eyes flickered from her lips to the steam rising from the cup. My chest tightened. If she drank, it could be the end. But she didn't. She set the cup aside, claiming she had a headache. Richard laughed, pretending it didn't bother him, but I saw the shadow flash across his face. Just for a moment, his plan was slipping, and he knew it. Later, when he left the room, Mom looked at me with a mixture of fear and gratitude. "I didn't drink," she whispered. I nodded quickly, whispering back, "Don't talk. He might hear us." She pressed her fingers to her lips, her eyes moist. In that moment, I realized she understood what I had been trying to tell her all along. The danger wasn't imagined. It was real, and it was sitting across our dinner table every night. From then on, silence became our language. A look, a nod, a tiny shake of the head. Our secret code. I stayed close to her whenever Richard was home, always watching, always ready. She started locking her door at night. She began serving her own drinks, never touching what he handed her. And though she never said the words out loud, I knew she trusted me now. But Richard wasn't blind. He noticed her caution, her sudden distance. He began watching her the way a hawk watches prey, circling, waiting for the right moment to strike. His charm in public remained flawless, but at home, the cracks were widening. He snapped more easily, his compliments coated with bitterness, his smiles colder. One night, As I lay in bed, I heard his voice again, low and urgent on the phone. She's stalling. She knows something. I'll have to change the plan. My skin went cold. Change the plan. I pulled the covers over my head. But I couldn't hide from the truth. We weren't safe. Not anymore. Richard Stones was a man cornered, and cornered men were dangerous. And I knew then that silence alone wouldn't be enough. Soon, I would have helped Mom find a way out before it was too late. Because the warning had been given, and the storm was coming closer. My mother's eyes changed after that night. They no longer sparkled with ease or trust. They carried a heaviness, a quiet trembling that she tried to hide from me. She still smiled when neighbors waved, still kept a polite voice when Richard was near. But when we were alone, I caught her staring into space as if trapped in a storm of her own thoughts. She wanted to believe me. No, I knew she did believe me. But belief came with a cost. To accept what I had told her meant admitting she had married a man who wanted her dead. That was a truth too sharp, too cruel for her to grasp easily. One afternoon, she sat with me in the living room, pretending to fold laundry. Her hands shook. "Martins," she whispered, barely louder than a breath. "You're sure about what you heard?" I nodded firmly. "Yes, Mom. He said he'd put pills in your tea. I swear it." Her face paled. She pressed the fabric to her chest, as if holding herself together. I thought I knew him." Her voice cracked. "I thought he loved us. I wanted to tell her it would be okay, that I would protect her, but I was only 10. My arms were small, my voice soft. All I had was my determination, and the truth I carried inside me. For days, she moved cautiously, testing Richard's every word and gesture. At the breakfast table, when he casually mentioned money, she stiffened. When he offered her a glass of wine, she declined. His jaw tightened, but his smile never faltered. Then came the moment that stripped away all of her doubt. It was late evening. Mom had gone upstairs early, saying she was tired. I crept down the hallway to get water, and that was when I saw him, Richard, at the kitchen counter. A small bottle sat open beside him, and he was grinding tiny white tablets into powder, mixing them into her favorite peppermint tea. The sight froze me. My knees weakened, but I forced myself back into the shadows before he noticed. He carried the mug upstairs, his footsteps soft, careful, almost tender. But I knew tenderness had nothing to do with it. I ran ahead, slipping into Mom's room through the side door we kept unlocked. She was in bed, reading. I rushed to her, tugging her arm, whispering fiercely, "Don't drink anything. Don't. Please." Her brow furrowed. "Martins, what?" "Don't talk," I hissed, pressing my hand to her mouth again, eyes wide with desperation. "He's coming. The tea is pills." Her body stiffened. She looked into my eyes, and something inside her broke, the final thread of doubt snapping under the weight of truth. She believed me now, completely. The door creaked. Richard entered, carrying the steaming mug, his smile smooth and rehearsed. "Peppermint tea, darling. I thought it would help you sleep." Mom's face was calm, but I could feel the way her hand gripped mine under the blanket. She didn't reach for the cup. Instead, she forced a weak smile. "Thank you, Richard. I'll have it in a bit." He hesitated, just for a second, but it was enough. His eyes flicked from the cup to her face, then to me, standing by her side, too protective, too insistent. Suspicion flared in his gaze, quickly buried beneath another smile. "Of course. Rest well, both of you." He set the mug on the nightstand and left. As soon as the door closed, Mom pushed the cup away with trembling hands. Tears welled in her eyes. She pulled me close, whispering, "You were right. Oh, God, Martins, you were right." That night, she didn't sleep. Neither did I. We lay together. The cup of poison tea still cooling on the table, the smell of peppermint turning bitter in the air. She held me tight, her body shaking, as though afraid Richard might come back at any moment. By morning, her doubt had transformed into fear, raw, consuming fear. She avoided Richard's eyes at breakfast, barely touching her food. He asked if she was feeling unwell, his tone coated with false concern, but beneath it, I heard something else. Impatience, frustration, a hunger he couldn't disguise forever. Mom knew we couldn't stay silent forever. But she also knew that confronting him without proof was dangerous. He was clever, calculating. If she accused him, he could twist the story, make her look hysterical, and I was just a child. Who would believe me over him? That was when she made her choice. She began to gather small pieces of evidence. Quietly, carefully, she saved the untouched cup of tea, hiding it in the back of her closet. She wrote down the times I had overheard his phone calls, the exact words I remembered. She began speaking more often to Margaret Collins, her old friend, though never about the danger directly. Just enough to keep a line of trust open, in case she needed someone to run to. But the fear never left her face. At night, she double-locked her door. She slept with the lamp on. And sometimes, I caught her watching me with tears in her eyes, as if she couldn't bear the thought of what might have happened if I hadn't overheard Richard's plot. Our home had turned into a cage. Richard's presence filled every corner, his footsteps echoing like threats down the hallway. And while Mom's doubt was gone, replaced now with certainty, that certainty came with a heavier burden. The knowledge that the man she had welcomed into our lives, the man she had married, was the same man plotting her death. It broke her heart, but it also lit a fire inside her. Because now, she wasn't just afraid. She was preparing. The days that followed were heavy with silence. My mother, Pearl Rivers, moved like a shadow through the house, careful not to reveal the truth she now carried. Richard Stones grew restless. His patience thinned. His smile no longer reached his eyes. Every small excuse he gave to offer her a drink, a meal, a pill to calm her nerves, was quietly refused. He was a predator circling closer, and we both knew time was running out. One morning, while Richard was out, Mom finally whispered her plan. She sat on the edge of my bed, her hand gripping mine. "Martins," she said softly, "we can't stay here. We can't wait for him to strike again. We need help and we need proof." Her voice shook, but her eyes were steady. She wasn't doubting anymore. She was ready. She reached into her closet and pulled out the mug from that awful night, still sealed in a plastic bag. The peppermint scent had faded, but the powdery residue clung to the bottom. "This is evidence," she whispered. "It will speak louder than anything." That evening, she called Margaret Collins her closest friend. She didn't explain everything over the phone, just enough. "I need you tomorrow. Please come early." Margaret agreed without hesitation, her concern obvious even through the crackle of the line. The hours before dawn stretched long. I lay awake, listening for Richard's footsteps, flinching at every creak. When morning finally arrived, Margaret's car pulled into the driveway just as Richard was preparing to leave for a supposed business meeting. His eyes narrowed at her arrival, but he forced his usual charm. "Margaret, what a pleasant surprise," he said smoothly. She smiled politely. "Just thought I'd check in on Pearl. It's been too long." He lingered, clearly unsettled, but finally left with a promise to return by evening. The air felt lighter as his car disappeared down the street. Behind closed doors, Mom wasted no time. She showed Margaret the mug, her hands trembling. "He's trying to kill me, Margaret." Martins heard him. "He's been poisoning my drinks." Margaret gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. She believed instantly. Without hesitation, she called the police. Detective Mark Reynolds arrived within the hour, his presence calm but commanding. He listened carefully as Mom explained everything, his pen scratching across a small notebook. He examined the mug, nodding. "We'll have the lab test this. But from what I'm hearing, you and your son are in immediate danger. We'll need to set a trap." The word trap sent a chill down my spine. That night, everything unfolded with terrifying clarity. The police asked Mom to go about her evening, as usual. They positioned officers discreetly outside the house, ready but unseen. Margaret stayed to keep her company, her presence a comfort. I sat at the kitchen table, my small fist clenched, as Richard returned. He looked at Margaret with annoyance this time, but still forced a grin. "Still here? Well, I suppose company is good for Pearl." Dinner was tense. Richard barely touched his food, his gaze darting between Mom and Margaret. Then, with a smile too wide, He rose to make tea. My stomach nodded. I knew what was coming. He returned with 2 cups, placing one in front of Mom with exaggerated care. "Peppermint, your favorite," he said softly. The room seemed to freeze. My chest tightened. Mom glanced at me, just a flicker, and I knew she was terrified too. But she steadied herself, lifted the cup, and held it near her lips. Before she could sip, the door burst open. Detective Reynolds and 2 officers strode in, their voices sharp. "Richard Stones, step away from the table." Richard froze, shock flashing across his face before he masked it with indignation. "What is this? How dare you barge into my home?" "This is Pearl River's home," the detective corrected coldly. He produced a plastic bag with the earlier mug. "We've had this tested. Poison. Same powder found in the cup you just prepared tonight." For a moment, Richard said nothing. His mask cracked. His eyes darted from Mom to me, then back to the detective. Finally, he laughed bitterly. "You fools! You have no proof I intended harm." But the detective's voice cut like steel. "We have your fingerprints on the bottles. We have your phone calls recorded from our monitoring. And we have a 10-year-old boy who overheard you planning his own mother's murder." The fight drained out of Richard's eyes. His shoulders sagged, but his glare toward me was venomous. 2 officers stepped forward, cuffing his wrists. Mom pulled me into her arms as Richard was let out, his protests fading into the night. My small body shook, but in her embrace, I finally felt safe. Margaret's hand rested on my back, her voice warm. "You were brave, Martins. So brave." The days that followed were filled with questions, court visits, and whispered reassurances. But through it all, one truth remained steady. We were free. Mom looked at me one evening, tears glistening in her eyes. "You saved me, Martins. My little boy saved me." I didn't know what to say. I just hugged her tighter, whispering the words that had guided me through it all. "Don't talk." Because silence had protected us when nothing else could. Thank you for watching. Kindly subscribe to this channel for more stories. Like this video, and please share to your loved ones.